Pro Football Playbook, presented by the Pigskin Podcast Network, your source for team news, draft needs, player profiles and rankings, full Senior Bowl, Combine, and NFL draft coverage, news, analysis, discussion. It's in the playbook. Now, here is your host, sports journalist Bill Alvstad, and featured analyst Keith Myers. NFL fans, welcome into the Pro Football Playbook. I'm your host, Bill Alvstad, sitting down with Keith Myers. Welcome into the show, Keith.
Yeah, it was yet another really weird and interesting week in the NFL. So we should run through that.
Week 11.
I know.
We're heading into Thanksgiving weekend. Got a whole series of Thanksgiving games, 3 games this year on Thursday. So that'll be fun. But before we get to that, let's figure out, the week that was. Starting with that Saints and Eagles game, 40-29. Jalen Hurts runs for 3 touchdowns. The Eagles are looking pretty good. The Saints are diminishing.
They are. I mean, and that's not to be unexpected with, their quarterback goes down. And now they're playing, they're just running back up out there. And it was a team that was going to lack depth from the beginning, just simply because of the salary cap mess that they were in coming, at the beginning of the offseason. They really had to fix that. I thought the fact that they were good and competitive says a lot about their front office and coaching staff, but you lose your quarterback, you don't have a lot of depth. Eventually it starts to fall apart.
Yeah. And 242 yards rushing for the Eagles in that game. I mean, that's just taking it to them. How about the Panthers falling to the Washington Football Club? The Panthers were kind of coming on. Cam Newton's there. He didn't play bad, but Washington just played pretty good. Tyler Heineke played well. Antonio Gibson played well. Terry McLaurin, obviously, playing well. The Colts, 41 against the Bills at 15 points. Jonathan Taylor. Oh, my goodness, Jonathan Taylor. So he had a ton of yards rushing, 5 touchdowns, like clear-cut offensive player of the week this week, Jonathan Taylor.
Oh yeah, Jonathan Taylor had a monster game, and it's been weird. He's a guy that you expect big things from every week, and sometimes you get him, and every once in a while he just gets kind of shut out. It's like the offensive play caller there kind of forgets they've got this huge weapon, and it's a little bit weird. I'm sure it's frustrating for fantasy owners out there, but when he's given a chance, man, he's just running people over this year.
Yeah. And how about the Titans falling to the Texans in one of the most surprising games? But you know what? When your quarterback, Ryan Tannehill, throws 4 interceptions in the game, you're going to lose.
Yeah, that's that. I mean, that's an unacceptable result for the Titans.
And an ugly game.
It was an ugly game. It wasn't much fun to watch. You've got the Texans aren't a good football team. They don't have a lot of talent. And the only way that they win games is when, the opposing quarterback decides to throw 4 interceptions.
Gives them away, yeah.
And it wasn't like great plays by the Texan cornerbacks. They were just really dumb throws by Ryan Tannehill.
So you mentioned a fun game to watch. The funnest game to watch in the NFL in Week 11 was that Packers-Vikings game.
Oh my God, that game was amazing.
Especially the end. It was just crazy.
The game was so fun. The lead kept changing hands, late, and I mean, there's this, what else can you say about the fact that game was so much fun? You felt like, okay, the Vikings had it, and then one play, Rodgers throws that one. That one long post pattern, and boom, their Packers are, got the lead, and then the Vikings have to come back and
you and I were texting back and forth in that game, and I was like, I think the Packers are going to come back, and 6 plays later, boom, they were in. So, but the Vikings won this game, 34-31 on a field goal, which they just haven't been able to do. So I was just thinking, this would just be total Viking football if he missed this, but no, he broke that thing, and had a couple other game winners this year. So maybe that trend is going away. But the Vikings really needed that game to kind of stay in contention. We're going to talk about playoff implications in the second half of this thing as we kind of run through playoff scenarios.
When you look at the Vikings that are rising and the Saints that are dropping, and you kind of see that's where the transition is happening. The Vikings look like a playoff team now, and the Saints look like they're going to end up falling out of it.
And the 49ers keep winning too. It's just kind of crazy. But the 49ers had 30 on the Jaguars, 10. The Browns squeaked out a victory. The Browns are kind of diminishing, but they ended up getting a win here that was kind of critical for them against the Lions. Chubb had 130 yards in that game. Dolphins over the Jets in a game of irrelevant teams, 24-17.
Although I'll tell you the Dolphins at 4 wins.
I know, right?
Is that
they would be a contender in the NFC or the NFC?
In the NFC, they absolutely would. But at 4 wins, they are, they're probably 2 wins greater than I think a lot of people expected from them. So they keep winning. They're going to end up playing their way out of contention for a quarterback.
One of the most competitive games of the week was the Steelers. 37 points against the Chargers, 41 points. Justin Herbert in that game again came back and had the winning touchdown in that game, giving him 5 comebacks in a single season so far. Just outstanding play from Justin Herbert in that game. The Ravens.
He continues to play. He continues to play really well.
Yeah, and he's keeping them in the playoff race single-handedly, I think.
Yeah, because the defense just isn't playing well. You can run on the Chargers pretty easily, and so that's you get the Steelers in there. That's kind of what you expect is for a team to kind of run up the score that way. The Steelers hung 27 points on the Chargers in just the fourth quarter, and they still couldn't.
And the Pittsburgh doesn't really have an offense, so that was kind of crazy.
Yeah,
Ravens squeaked out one without Lamar Jackson, out with a respiratory illness. Huntley was their quarterback, scored 16 points. That was just enough to get by the struggling and inept Chicago Bears at 13 points. Justin Fields was hurt in that game. Andy Dalton came and played the rest of that. The Bengals 32, Raiders 13. The other game,
the Raiders are just falling apart. They've lost 3 straight. And I don't. I hate they were playing good at the beginning of the year. The whole Gruden mess happened. They won, a game after that, and you're like, okay, well maybe they can keep it going, and they're just falling apart. It's really sad to see because I thought they were going to be better than this year.
So the Chiefs got past the Cowboys 19-9.
How's that for an unexpected result
on the road too? And that was a hard one fought game by the Chiefs. I was really impressed.
Two really good offenses. The Chiefs defense at times has been just terrible, although they've been better at other times. And yet then you get very few points scored in the game. It was a surprising result to me. I expected that game to be 31-27, and it could have gone either way.
And the Patriots got by the Falcons 25-0, also put them in first place, getting over the Bills, which are, falling apart a little bit right now.
We should talk about that. What is going on with the Bills? They were
Josh Allen's not playing very well.
They were the class of the AFC coming into the year. The first 5 or 6 games, they looked like the class of the AFC.
They should be. Period.
And they should be. They have the talent to. And then all of a sudden, they're just falling apart. And Josh Allen looks like he did as a rookie. He's just lost at times.
And how about the Patriots? You got to give a little bit of credit to the Patriots at 7-4.
Absolutely.
I had no idea that they would be competitive this year. I thought it would take them a little bit.
And at the start of the year, they didn't look like they were going to be competitive. It looked like they were still a year away. But, I know that a lot of people have kind of fallen off the Bill Belichick train since he had to rebuild after Brady left. But he's still the best coach in the NFL. Let's not kid ourselves. He still is. He's got that team playing really well.
So let's take a look at the AFC playoff picture and start with the division leaders. Tennessee at 8-3, best record in the AFC. Baltimore 7-3, New England 7-4, and Kansas City at 7-4 now, regaining control of their division, which looks interesting with the Chargers, but Kansas City's probably the more experienced team, more playoff kind of battle tested, and we'll see how that goes down the stretch. But the Titans losing, I think, to the Texans opened the door for the other three division leaders in the AFC for home field advantage a little bit. With the 7, you got 7 win teams there, 3 of them competing for that. So we'll see how Tennessee does down the stretch. And the Titans in week 12 also visit the New England Patriots. So that'll be a great game.
What's interesting about the AFC, and I know we said this last week too, but you go down to the 12th team in the league, and you get to the Denver Broncos that are 5-5.
Yes,
that is 12 deep of 500 or better.
And 7 teams get in, and the 7th team has only got 6 wins. So Denver's just literally 1 game back.
Yeah, and so you're looking at, I mean, that's just a lot of teams that are kind of bunched in there, because the 12th best team has 5 wins. That's Denver, and the number 2 team has 7. So there's only 2 games separating 2 from 12.
And let's go through like 5 through 10. So Cincinnati is at 6-4. They're the 5th ranked team right now. The Chargers are 6-4. They're the 2nd place team in the AFC West. Buffalo, 2nd place team in the East at 6-4. Pittsburgh at 5-4-1 is just hanging in there. Indianapolis is surging at 6-5. Cleveland is struggling at 6-5. Las Vegas, I think, is falling off at 5-5. Denver, I think, it's just going to be too competitive, I think, for Denver to rise all the way up. And then Miami at 4-7 closes that list out. Let me see here. I think that's, in the NFC, we can go over to the NFC and talk about the NFC a little bit. Division leaders, Arizona, closing out Seattle's hopes, I think, in the AFC West and in the NFC in general. That team's just really fallen off. Arizona moves to 9-2 and in command of home field advantage right now in the NFC. I think there were a lot of folks out there originally talking about Arizona sneaking into maybe like a 3rd place in their own division to get a wild card spot. And now they're in command of the whole thing. What's going on in Arizona, Keith?
Well, I mean, what's going on with Arizona is they were playing really well at the start of the year, and then they've managed to time it right. And when their quarterback goes down for an injury, they play some bad teams, and you're able to go out and get some wins behind Colt McCoy. And then
McCoy had a statistically outstanding game.
But he was playing against a really bad defense. But it's Colt McCoy. We know what Colt McCoy is. They're going to get Murray back. They thought they were going to get him back this week, or this last week, but they should get him back this coming week.
And they go into a bye, and so he'll have an extra week.
So the bye, and then they'll come back, but they're going to get their best players back, and they were able to
for the stretch.
They were able to get some. They were able to get some wins, keep pace. Stay ahead of Green Bay. Without Murray and Hopkins. And now they're going to get those guys back, and they're going to be ready to go on a run. Like, this is a team that's super dangerous and has to be considered.
And an improving defense in the toughest division, or what was the toughest division coming into the season, the NFC West. So fun times in the NFC.
We thought that was going to be a great division, but Seattle's been bad, and the 49ers have been bad. They've managed to get up to 500 at 5-5, but mostly just by beating really bad teams like the Jaguars. So
Jaguars last week.
Let's see them go out and actually beat a team that has a winning record before we really give them too much credit. I mean, their strength of victory is only 343. That's the average winning percentage of the teams they've beat. And so, it's one of the weakest strength of victories that you're going to find.
But in this year, they're competing with teams. Well, we'll talk about the teams that are not division leaders in just a second. Green Bay at 8-3. They dropped the ones to the Vikings there that dropped them down in the home field advantage category there in the NFC. Dallas at 7-3 dropped their game against the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Tampa Bay, I think, dropped their game, right? I can't remember.
They're actually playing while we record
Oh,
this.
okay.
Monday Night Football.
They're okay. Gotcha.
So they're playing the Giants.
And they're at 6-3, likely to probably win that game.
Yeah.
Let's see. How about let's go through the wild card race.
Well, so it's got to start with the Rams, who are in the 5 spot. They're 7-3. They're a game and a half back of Arizona. They haven't been playing as well recently. Their strength of victory is also weak, which suggests that maybe they're not as good as everyone thought they were, especially since they haven't been playing well recently. But they've got a ton of talent, and if they put it together, they're as dangerous as anybody. So
I agree with that.
And they're 2 games better than the 6th seed, which is
there's the Vikings. I think definitely no question the Los Angeles Rams are in. It's a question of, can they overtake Arizona to get back on top of the division and put themselves in the hunt for that NFC home field advantage, or are they going to be one of the wild card teams?
Well, they're a game and a half back. They have one more game against Arizona. They already beat Arizona once this year. So
yes,
if they come out and win that head to head, it essentially closes the gap, and they get the tiebreaker over them. So it's not Arizona's division at this point. We can't just write them in pen as the division winner there. The Rams are right behind them.
Minnesota at the 6th seed currently at 5-5.
They're a rising team. Their team,
they are a rising team. And that game against. Go ahead.
I would say they didn't start the year very well, but when the games that they lost, at one point they had lost 3 games by a combined 4 points. And so, or it was combined 5 points, but it was, they lost a couple of close, very Vikings-like games where, a missed field goal here and there ends up sinking them. But they're a better team than I think their record would indicate at 5-5. And they're a team that recently, the last couple of games, they beat some good teams. I mean, they went and beat Green Bay this week. So,
and you could say out of the 5-win teams that are vying for 2 playoff spots, there might be the best team on this list that we're going to talk about.
I think easily they're the best team on this list.
New Orleans at 5-5, but they're falling.
Yeah, they lost their quarterback. Their depth issues are starting to
and their defense is starting to weaken because of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then
the 49ers,
San Francisco at 5-5.
They're 5-5.
About the 49ers,
they haven't beat anyone,
but they could get into the 7th seed.
They could. They absolutely could, just because of the weakness of the NFC. That there's the top 5 teams, and then there's a chunk of teams at 500 or just below, and the 49ers are a team that's going to be 500 or just below. So pick up a win here or there, and they could sneak in as the 7th seed. But
I think in a diminished NFC this year, a team like Philadelphia, who I think a lot of folks did not expect to be competitive this year, are turning out to be, at 500 and seemingly improving a little bit at 500 and rising. They have an opportunity right now, although listed at 9th in the conference, are statistically right there and within a game to just really kind of jump and get in front of everybody. And this will be the fascinating race to me. Is all these 5-win teams. I know it sounds weird out there when you're talking about mediocrity, but and I was going to get to that they're 5-6 and they have Cam Newton now. They did play okay in that loss. It wasn't like a horrendous situation for them. That's a team that you can look at now that's maybe ascending. So it'll be very interesting, very competitive.
Yeah, they started out 3-0 against 3 of the doormats of the NFL. And then kind of went on a tailspin, and that resulted in Cam Newton, return to Carolina and leading them to a win a week ago. And then this last week they kind of came back down to earth. I thought they had a chance to win that game, but they couldn't pull it out. But I still don't know what to expect from them. They just aren't.
There's nothing special on that team.
Their defense is good, but I don't know. I guess but they're a team that, based on their schedule, I could see them getting in as that 7th seed fairly.
Is there anybody in this bottom dweller list that has a chance to rise up? Washington at 4-6, Atlanta at 4-6, the Giants at 3-6, Chicago 3-7, and surprisingly Seattle at 3-7, one of the worst teams in the NFL right now.
Well, the Seahawks are in 15th out of 16 NFC teams. So I think at this point we need to close that door, which it's just weird. That's a team that has been so steadily
this early to say that. This is before
team.
December. We're literally saying that out loud, that Seattle is virtually eliminated from the playoffs. It technically about one game away, one loss away, I think, from being just
out. Mathematically out. It was kind of the same way last year with the Patriots, right? Where you're just so used to being like, well, of course they're going to sneak in, even if they're having a down year, they're going to get into the playoffs. Well, I don't think that's going to happen. They're 3-7 and they don't look good. So, I mean, the Bears.
Yeah, I mean, what's going on with Seattle, Keith? I mean, we're familiar with Seattle. Let's share that with everyone else out there. What do you think is happening with a Seattle team that's at 3-7 right now? There's a lot of speculation out there that Russell Wilson's, not 100% with his finger, that the coaching staff is over the hill and don't know how to call plays. The list goes on and on and on. What are you seeing?
Well, I mean, there is a problem with Russell Wilson and his finger. He has to wear that splint. He's missing a lot of receivers by throwing it over their head. Because he's just overthrowing things. But the bigger problem is he just can't read the field right now. He looks lost and somewhat rusty. It's like the game's moving too fast for him. It wasn't at the beginning.
It doesn't help that he's not getting any protection.
Yeah, he's not. But the offense just looks, it's a mess. Their running backs are hurt. Their offensive line is terrible. And with Wilson not reading the field as quickly as he needs to, nothing is working offensively for them, and you're not going to win games if you can't score points, and especially
you're not going to win. Yeah, you're not going to win games when your defense is on the field for 40 minutes each game either.
Yeah, and their defense isn't great. There was some hope that maybe they're improving, but no, they're not. So it really comes down to that's just not a good football team this year. Now I do expect Russell Wilson to for the light to click back on, because he's Russell Wilson. He's been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL for almost a decade now. But once it does, sure, the offense will do great, but that's going to be too late. I mean, the season's already over at 3-7.
So getting back to the playoffs a little bit, the one team that I think has an opportunity to rise up a little bit is maybe the Eagles. They did beat, the Alvin Kamara-less New Orleans Saints without a quarterback as well. And then the Washington football team beat the Carolina Panthers, but Philadelphia holds the head-to-head wins over the Falcons, Panthers, and Saints, and still has to play Washington twice. So that's a team that has an opportunity, if they grab it, to get up and snag one of those playoff spots.
One of the things that's interesting about the New Orleans Saints is, I mean, they're trending downward because of the injuries, and they lost their quarterback in Jameis Winston, and Kamara's hurt now, and they just don't have a lot left. Michael Thomas was lost before the start of the season, but then you look at their strength of victory, and their strength of victory is I think the best in the NFL at 549. So they've beaten good,
and so they're
teams.
Tested. Yeah, and that really does make a difference down the stretch, and in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Another team to keep track of is Minnesota. By eking out this win, this I think put Minnesota in kind of a great position for the 5th or 6th or 7th seed in the NFC. The Vikings have the best NFC record among the 5-win teams, just by virtue of all of the tiebreakers, and they still have 3 games left against the Bears and the Lions. So yeah, that to me is
that should be 3 wins, but it's also the Vikings, so it'll be 2 wins because of a missed field goal. Sorry, Minnesota fans. It's true.
I think they've licked that this year. I really do. I mean, he does have 3 game-winning field goals this year.
Oh, and here's the thing: is they have, and this is a team, like I said, they play the
49ers this week.
Yeah,
they're Levi Stadium, so that's a chance to kind of separate.
They're a better team than their record, I believe. And the jokes kind of write themselves, but they're a good team. The 5-5 record there's a lot of really close losses that could have gone either way in those 5 losses. So I'm very.
And when you beat a team like Green Bay, who's going to be in the playoffs, who's going to be a contender, everybody knows that they're going to be there. And when you have that kind of win in your back pocket, it really does give you a little bit of confidence going in, especially if you need to face those guys down the stretch. I'm going to say that let's get out of here.
I'm going to say
it's Thanksgiving week.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Really enjoy having the new show, new studio, same old guest that I'm used to, co-host, Mr. Keith Myers. But nothing bad to say about Keith. I wish you the very best of Thanksgiving as well, and your family, lovely family, all that good stuff. And we'll be back later this week, though, if you want to come join us again as we work on the NFL draft side of the show. We're going to come back and do that. We're going to talk about the playoff seedings in the college football world and find out where everyone's at, where the seedings are at, how those look like, national championship game, playoff games, all that kind of stuff. That'll be kind of a fun show to talk about as we get right next to Thanksgiving. So until next time, you're going to follow Keith at Myers NFL. I'm at Alvstad NFL. The show is at PF_Playbook on Twitter. You're going to go to Pro Football Playbook on our website, profootballplaybook.co, and find us on your favorite podcast app by just searching for us, and also on YouTube. And remember to subscribe. That would be great. So we'll see you next time. And if you're learning about it in the NFL, it's going to be in the playbook.
Thanks for listening to the Pro Football Playbook Podcast. Follow Keith at Myers NFL. Phil is at Alvstad NFL. The show is at PF_Playbook. Listen and subscribe on your favorite podcast app or YouTube, and at our website, profootballplaybook.co.